Hello, welcome to The Wild Review. I'm The Wild Reviewer, and today I'm going to review a thing. You know, when I was a kid, I was a big fan of crossovers. Just the fact that one of my favorite shows was going to be meeting up with another one of my favorite shows just made me so hyped as a little kid. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about crossovers. I just think the idea of crossovers was genius because it brings one great show to another. Though sometimes crossovers don't exactly work. Some crossovers aren't very necessary, but at another time, crossovers are necessary. So let's just talk about some crossovers that I've seen that I either think are good or bad. Say Uncle, Steven Universe, and Uncle Grandpa. This is definitely one to talk about because this had the biggest controversy ever in the Steven Universe fandom world. Okay, not really, I might be exaggerating a little, but if you're a Steven Universe fan, you either love or hate this episode. When the fans of Steven Universe heard there would be a crossover between Steven Universe and Uncle Grandpa, not many people were very happy with it. My opinion was, alright. It's a crossover with two shows that I like. Alright, cool. Now, I already gave my opinion on Steven Universe and Uncle Grandpa in my Cartoon Network review, and I think both of them are really great shows. So, yeah, it really didn't bother me when I found out these two shows were coming together. Though I didn't know that on the internet, the producers of the show stated that everything that Uncle Grandpa does in this episode will be canon to the rest of the series. I didn't exactly know about that, but apparently that's what had been put out on social media sites. Though, as everyone freaked out about this, they all got a big relief as when they saw the episode that it was just an April Fool's joke and that none of it was very canon. Though even though none of it was canon and that it was just one big joke, not many people seem to like it. At least some. Like I said, if you're a fan of Steven Universe, you either love or hate this episode. And for me, I like this episode. It's very humorous, and I love seeing all these characters who are usually put into a serious situation be put into a goofy situation. I like how all the characters acted in this episode. Pearl just made me laugh hysterically, and Garnet got me laughing a bit. Everybody got me laughing because I thought this crossover fit fine. It's something like Uncle Grandpa that is okay. There are some shows where, like, if you put a certain series show and then a sitcom together, it really won't work. But with Uncle Grandpa, the way that it's set up, this can kind of work. The one thing in the episode that got me absolutely in tears was the fact that Uncle Grandpa had a list of Cartoon Network characters that he was visiting one by one. And it appears that Clarence is going to be next. And I'm still going to wait for that crossover, Cartoon Network. You better make it. The Simpsons Guy. Family Guy and The Simpsons. This is a crossover everyone has been dying to see. And I've kind of been dying to see it. But then again, I only got into Family Guy about a year ago, so yeah, it's whatever. I've been watching The Simpsons for a very long time, and I really didn't understand the premise of Family Guy until about a year ago. And when I first saw Family Guy, I instantly thought The Simpsons because they are very similar. And when Fox finally announced that there'd be a crossover between these two shows, everybody flipped out. This was big, apparently. The fact that Peter Griffin is finally going to meet Homer Simpson was very intense. And the way that they set it up in the episode was very intense too. They did a whole bunch of gags. The episode was also very funny, and it's just very funny how the Simpsons deal with Family Guy issues. Like, there's one part where Peter is trying to do his little cutaway scene in the Simpsons world, and Homer has absolutely no idea what's going on. And also that one scene where Marge is setting up dinner, Brian doesn't realize he has a seat, and Marge is like, oh yeah, well that might be in your world that you can sit at the table, but dogs eat in the kitchen. I find that absolutely hilarious, seeing that they're still sticking to their continuity in the Simpsons world, and the Family Guy continuity is not really kept here. I party with Victorious. iCarly and Victorious. This, I kind of saw coming. I honestly did. I mean, it really was no surprise that Dan Schneider was going to mix one of his popular shows with another popular show. It's already kind of known that Dan Schneider has already made a separate, different world, which I think is great. I think the fact that he created his own world for all of his shows is perfect. You know, now he can keep each one of his characters, like, in different towns in his own world. I don't see anything wrong with that. And there wasn't anything wrong with this crossover, but it's not one of my favorites. There was something definitely wrong here, and I feel like the whole plot was forced. I mean, you have Carly's boyfriend, who is also Tori's boyfriend. I mean, that doesn't feel a little forced? I mean, at least with the Simpsons and Family Guy, at least the Griffins were driving out of town and they get into an accident and they ended up in Springfield. I feel like, I don't know, something about this special gets me, and I don't know what it is. I think it's because Kenan Thompson is in it, and he already plays Kenan in his own show, Kenan and Kel, which was something that Dan Schneider had help in. No, that's not it. Maybe it's because of all the way all the iCarly and Victorious characters are getting along. No. Oh. Maybe it's because of their song. Yeah. I think that's what gets me about this special. The fact that they're mixing the iCarly theme song with the Victorious theme song. It's so cheesy, that song. It just really is. There's one part in the special where there is a rap battle, and Sam versus Rex. Now, we obviously knew who was going to win. But the fact that at the end, they're playing the iCarly theme song, and Carly instantly knows what she's singing, and then the fact that the Victorious song comes on and she knows what they're singing, and they all know the song, I think that pisses me off the most, not just about this crossover, but about the fact that whenever there is a song in an episode, like, they instantly know the rhythm, they instantly know the song, even if it's a song that they've never known before. I think that's what pisses me off most about this crossover. Other than that, everything else is pretty interesting. I still think it was a little forced, but again, I saw this crossover coming, so oh well. Lab Rats vs. Mighty Med. Lab Rats and Mighty Med. I've already talked about Lab Rats and a little of Mighty Med on this show multiple times, and you'll be hearing me talking about Lab Rats a lot more as we get a little closer, and maybe even after the series finale on February 3rd. But this crossover was, well, I've already kind of given my opinion on this crossover in my Lab Rats review. I said that the Lab Rats part was really good, but the Mighty Med part, I'm not a very big fan of Mighty Med, if I haven't mentioned it in the past. Mighty Med is interesting. It's got a very interesting plot, but the way that the comedy is set up, it's very childish. They don't really do as much serious stuff as Lab Rats, but I mean, I guess I kind of understood this crossover because, I mean, like, the Lab Rats part, anything Lab Rats is good. I mean, I laugh at almost a lot of things Lab Rats. There are some episodes where I don't really laugh because the comedy and writing is a bit cheesy, but when Lab Rats does its serious action-packed episodes, that's where this good stuff happens. The only thing I was sad about was that there were no Lab Rat or Mighty Med villains in this special. They brought in a brand new villain. I mean, it would have been a little interesting if we had a Lab Rats villain and maybe a Mighty Med villain team up together, but oh well. We got Lab Rats vs. Mighty Med, which, oh, well, okay, well, I was just going to ask why it's called that, and then I remembered Adam and Bree are fighting with, yeah, it's Bionics versus superheroes, yeah, and that little, alright, I understand now. Move along. Not So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana. Not So Raven. Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and Hannah Montana. This is a crossover I think a lot of us remember if we watched Disney. We were very hyped as kids when we saw this promo. At least I was. I couldn't believe I was watching it, and I thought it was going to actually be like a movie of some sort, but then no, it's just like an individual episode. And I think it's great. It's one of the first major Disney Channel crossovers between live action shows, and I think all of it was great, and the way it was set up was awesome. They had a That's So Raven episode with guest stars from Zack and Cody, a Zack and Cody episode with guest stars from Raven and Hannah Montana, and Hannah Montana was supposed to have Zack and Cody characters in it, but that's my one problem with the crossover. So Hannah Montana is not really in this crossover very much. She's at the end of the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody episode and is only on for about maybe, I want to say, 3 minutes. And then in her episode, the only Zack and Cody character is Maddie. And then it just continues to be a Hannah Montana episode. So I feel like her part in the crossover was weak. But she regained it when they did another big crossover with these 3 shows. Not Raven, but they replaced it with Wizards. In the Wizards on Deck with Hannah Montana crossover. I felt like that one was a little better for Hannah Montana, seeing that a lot of the Zack and Cody characters interacted with Hannah Montana, at least in this one. Both of these crossovers are extremely good. I really don't need to go into the Wizards on Deck crossover because I feel the same way I did with That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana. It's just awesome, and it's childhood memories, and I love them. And the best crossover that I have ever seen in my life, Jimmy Timmy Power Hour, 1, 2, and 3. Jimmy Neutron and the Fairly Odd Parents. This is my favorite crossover ever. I love the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour crossovers. This is around the time when the Fairly Odd Parents was actually good. You know? It fit so well. In the first one, it was something that none of us have ever seen before. And the fact that they kept their own traditional animations for this, we saw Timmy in CGI and Jimmy in 2D animation. Mind blown! And it was really amazing to see these characters interact with each other's characters, and together, yeah. Plus, it was a good match. A kid that is not so smart and uses magic to get with his problems, and a kid that is a freaking genius that deals with science with his problems. You merge them together and put them in opposite worlds, and that's mind blown. What the hell? The second one wasn't as bad as well. It had a little decent plot to it, unlike the 2 of them switching worlds. We actually got to see more Jimmy Neutron characters become Fairly Odd animation-ish, and Cosmo, Wanda, and Jorgen in, like, Jimmy Neutron, yeah. Pretty cool, and the third one was also good as well. I think the third one was actually what ended the Jimmy Neutron series. Oh, wait, never mind. So yeah, I absolutely love the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour crossovers. They are amazing, and I might actually go watch them now because I love them. They are amazing. They are the best crossovers that I've ever seen in my life. So those are some crossovers that I like, some that I kind of didn't like, and I just talked about crossovers a little bit. What about you? What is your favorite crossover, and which show do you want to see have a crossover? Which one of your favorite shows do you want to have a crossover? Not like I can do anything about it, but I just want to know. Do you agree or disagree with anything I said in this video? Tell me in the comments, and also leave me your suggestions for whatever movie, TV show, or random thing you want me to talk about next. Thanks for watching The Wild Review. I'm The Wild Reviewer, and you just saw me review a thing.